Today, is web video consolidating or splintering or both? On this week's edition of Hacking TV, I'm Steve Rosenbaum.
And I'm Saul Hansel. Yahoo is for sale. We knew that. But the likely buyer seems to be Verizon. Can Tim Armstrong and the phone company find value in the hottest internet company of 1999?
And in the web video space, Mashable, BuzzFeed, and Twitter are all making big video moves.
While others seem to be pulling away from YouTube, the dreams of big money from MCNs seem to be evaporating.
Hey everybody, welcome to Hacking TV. Howdy, Saul.
Howdy, Steve. So there's a lot to talk about as usual this week, with everything swirling around.
I feel like this is a week when the future of the web itself and web video are really starting to kind of appear before us. It's pretty shocking.
So when you look at the slow motion flirtation of AOL with Verizon endorsing it and Yahoo moving forward this week, what do you make of it?
So first of all, I think, just to be clear, I admire Tim, and I think he's had a really big global vision for what he was going to try and acquire and put together. But really, you're seeing the end of the portal universe as we know it and the beginning of the phone company world. I mean, somebody said to me, who would I bet on? And I said, if I were in Vegas and I had one chip to bet, I'd bet it on Telco. I'd bet it on Verizon.
Well, there's a difference between buying things and running them well, right? Time Warner, there's lots of mergers throughout the history of digital stuff where somebody who had cash bought something. There are a lot fewer mergers where they then ran it in a way that, created a decent return. So the cell phone business is one of the, businesses that you can print money in. So the jury is still out. I worked for Tim. I admire Tim. He has wanted to consolidate Yahoo and AOL since he got there, because it, to some degree, makes sense. If the businesses that they're in are declining but overlapping, consolidating makes sense. I worry that because it's 2016 instead of 2009, the value of taking two has-been email properties, two has-been portal properties, two has-been, all that stuff doesn't get them very far.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what they're buying. First of all, it isn't clear what they may not buy Flickr, they may not buy the email. If you look at what McAdams is saying publicly, he's saying in this very cerebral way, we're going to look at the assets and we're going to find the value and we're going to pay what they're worth. And the negotiation will be, we don't need Flickr. You can put it in the package if you want, but we value it at zero, or we value it at what we value it at. And I think that the conversation, what's interesting to me, and we don't need to spend the show on it, but if you look at of what the Verizon strategy looked like a year ago, and you look today at what they've done and what they're continuing to do, they seem to be keeping the right people. There was rumors that Ariana was going to leave and she's stayed. There were rumors that Tim was going to leave and he's stayed. And, clearly McAdams and Tim have found a working relationship. And McAdams said flat out, we'll buy Yahoo if Tim thinks it is a piece he wants to have. Like, they're buying it for Tim.
When you imagine, the pieces of value in Yahoo that someone's going to say, aha, in the context of my phone company TV distribution Go90 thing, what is it that someone is going to be really happy, that Lowell is going to be really happy to have?
So it all comes back to ad tech, right? So ad tech needs inventory to place ads, and advertising agencies and buyers want to be able to buy at scale. So they want to be able to buy great big audience numbers from, they don't want to have to wander around buying lots of little audience numbers. So here's some numbers from a piece for Forbes that's going to come out later in the week, probably tomorrow. So if you compare the two companies, AOL had 5,600 employees and a market cap of $3.94 billion when they bought it, whereas Verizon today is a $2.6 billion company with a headcount of 177,000 and some change.
No, it's got to be not 2 billion, probably 200 billion.
No, I'm sorry, 206 billion. Yes, 200 billion. So order of magnitude, and Verizon's going to buy in Yahoo another billion views or some thereabouts. So even if Yahoo's declining, and everyone knows it is, the real question is, you end up with a complicated jigsaw of a lot of pieces, parts, and some real tech leadership challenges to how you piece them together and keep the talent at Yahoo who's already leaving. It's a tricky acquisition, but I think,
I had an insight this week. I have written about Yahoo since 1996, 97, and for most of that time, there was the question, who should run the thing, who might be able to figure out what to do with it? And I hadn't really had a good idea until this week. Jonah Peretti. I think Jonah, and we'll come to one of his deals this week. He does a lot of them. Jonah founded and runs BuzzFeed, and just seems to have a better feel for how to balance the thing of the moment and a longer term vision in a way that damn near nobody else I've seen has.
All right,
in the
Tim,
sort of digital media space.
Tim, if you're listening, it's time to go out and keep the acquisition ball rolling and buy BuzzFeed and get Jonah. Is that what you're saying? Because he's not looking for a job.
I'm saying to Lowell, yeah. Because I would, as much as I like Tim, I would give Jonah his job.
See, they're totally different jobs. That's fascinating. I mean, so Tim's a salesman and a good one and a leader, and he runs the ad tech side really well. But I don't think he claims to be running the content side.
He's running the company.
But in any case, I would say there's room in that enterprise for both of them. But let's talk about this other Verizon deal, which is a tiny little deal, but I think plays into a larger theme that I'm seeing, which is Verizon acquiring a stake in Awesomeness TV for $2.4 million or 24.5. I'm sorry. Nope, I got that wrong.
No, it was $159 million buys
for
them a
24% stake. So what do you make of that deal? Is it interesting to you?
Well, look, again, these are so small in the scheme of Verizon that there's and what the hell is a minority stake? These are sort of bet hedging, keep your fingers in a lot of stuff. As Verizon is moving into the content business, it's a distributor, right, and a network, and they're taking lots of small steps and trying to figure it out. I mean, even $5 billion or $4 billion for AOL is small compared to what they could have bought. DirecTV cost 10 times that for AT&T. So I think they're being smart and saying, let's not bet the farm. Let's try a bunch of stuff and figure it out.
See, and to me, when I saw that deal, I immediately flashed back to the early days of cable television, and I thought to myself, that feels like a John Malone deal to me.
Well, that's the right model. I agree. If you're Verizon, you say, what can I learn from TCI? TCI being the cable company that John Malone built up, and in doing so, was able to parlay his distribution monopoly into a lot of equity in a lot of content companies, Time Warner, News Corp, Discovery, and so on. And what the right balance is between distribution and content is one of these big questions, right? Time Warner got rid of its distribution about the same time that Comcast bought NBC. So...
But I see it as a little bit, and again, I have no inside information here, but it's like, if you own the pipe, if you're the mobile guy, you get to say, listen, you want to be in Go90, you want to be on all my things, you want to be on, you want to be in my feeds, we'd like a taste. Like,
right.
I mean,
and the question,
why
right.
did DreamWorks sell?
I don't know. Why
They didn't need the
DreamWorks sell?
cash, did they?
DreamWorks sold to NBC?
No, DreamWorks sold its stake.
Oh,
of Awesomeness.
Right. Well, DreamWorks is not doing so well.
Oh, so you think they're selling the first? Yeah, all right, maybe. And Hearst, which I'd forgotten, is also an owner.
The question with all of these companies, right? We know that the web video business is changing. We know that the formats are changing. We know YouTube is a big thing, but it's early. So there's a lot of people trying to figure out what the recipe is for the future. And I think that Awesomeness is one of a bunch of people who are trying to come up with something that people are going to want to watch and figure out the distribution. And it's very early days, and you need to be in it, but the likelihood of failure is going to be very high.
All right, let's
flip right into the
Chapter 2
Machinima story.
Chapter 2. Oh no, you want all right. Well, all right, Machinima it is.
Well, just because it goes with that, right? So Machinima is another one of these YouTube companies, and the news is that Warner Brothers decided not to exercise an option. So Machinima and Awesomeness are pretty much in the same category, and Warner Brothers participated and invested in some earlier rounds with a lot smaller amount of money than Verizon is paying for Awesomeness. And that got them the option to buy, and they're saying, nah, not worth it. And so, I mean, where you are, do you see a difference? Is Awesomeness doing enough better than Machinima that would explain things, or?
So this is the chapter that I called "The Death of the MCN," and you know, I think that the MCN will be a blip in web video history, and let's go back and remember for a moment what the MCN actually is.
Please.
So there were all of these people making channels on YouTube, and they all needed care and feeding, and they all needed to be trained, and they all needed to be taken out to lunch and made nice to, and basically YouTube, which was in San Bruno, locked the front door of their building and said, oh my God, we just can't be in the talent management business. And a bunch of people said, we'll scoop that up. And they built these things called MCNs, multi-channel networks. And they took all the creators and said, come in and work for our thing, and we'll manage your YouTube relationship, and we'll get you traffic and all this stuff. And for what will amount to about 3 or 4 years, the MCN world battled it out between Fullscreen and Machinima and a bunch of other folks to get the best talent. And they all had a handful of stars, and then they had a lot of channels nobody watched. When the big media companies, Warner Brothers being one of them, said, boy, we got to figure this YouTube thing out, they showed up with a checkbook and said, well, what's the biggest thing we can buy? Right? We don't want to go buy channels one by one. Somebody's already packaged them up for us in a bow. So these MCNs became, very valuable, and Fullscreen sold to the Chernin folks, and Machinima raised a lot of money. But it isn't clear to me that at the end of the day, the MCN business was anything other than a moment in time.
That makes sense to me. I mean, I always ask, what value are you adding? And you described, I think, really nicely the value of being the interface between Google and a bunch of teenagers in basements. And that's real value, but it's small value. And one of the other big debates right now is the role of platforms, right? So where does YouTube fit into a mature market? Is YouTube a portal the way Yahoo was that will be disseminated into a fragmented world, or will it all, everything seems to be being reaggregated in Facebook, and so maybe all the video, and we'll get to that in a second too, but how much value is there in being a piggyback on top of somebody's platform?
Well, two other things happened in the MCN world. In addition to a bunch more competition making YouTube not the only place to go, some of the most successful, performers, started pushing back and saying to the MCNs, hey, we don't like our deal. So they, there were folks inside one of the big MCNs that told me that their top they had essentially 10 channels that were the bulk of their traffic, and the problem is the channel owners knew it. So it's a little like being a hair salon with 5 chairs when one of the stylists is getting all the walk-in traffic because they've got fans, and they go to the person who they've rented the chair from and say, how about you pay me to fill up your other, like, all of a sudden the power was shifting from the MCN to the big name presenters, and that makes it harder to stay afloat.
Although if it turns out to be true that the big name can then fill the other chairs, that actually is more of a logic for an MCN where the value is split accordingly, because you can make something bigger. Just the way in dealing with the cable companies, which is very much of an analogy, the big media companies say, if you want to get FX and Fox News, you have to have, Fox Badminton and Fox Goldfish and all the other, channels that nobody wants.
I love Fox Goldfish. I love that channel.
And there is, and it's there for you. And
but here's
thank you bundling.
So the bet that's the most interesting to me is, the guys at Fullscreen said, we're so sure that our talent is going to be valuable that we're gonna go out and build a direct to consumer offering for $4 a month, $4.99, something like that, and they're rolling out with a pretty big launch, what I think seems a lot to me like Vessel, but they insist it's not.
I think we're at a point where I think a majority of the population pays for video subscription services, right? So if you have already figured out how to pay for Netflix or Hulu or Amazon, and a place to watch it that you like to watch it, and someone says, here's some more stuff you want to watch for $5 or $10 a month, you get that. Suddenly they're not selling you the whole concept of subscription video on demand. They're selling you, it's another magazine. It's another thing you can pay for.
But the reason why I wonder about the full screen thing will be what it'll be, but I just, and Peter Chernin seems convinced it's going to be a success. But for me, it's like, hey mom, hey dad, I'm 12 years old, and I like the credit card because I want to subscribe to this thing that has a bunch of talent you've never heard of, some of which is probably a little edgy. Like, I think getting the YouTube audience to go to mom and dad to get a credit card to subscribe to something that's, keep in mind, $4 a month is $60 a year. It's half my cable bill.
Wait, because you just subscribe to local.
What?
Wait, half your cable? What do you mean half your cable bill?
No, it's half my month. I'm sorry, I'm doing bad math today. It's $60 a year.
Right.
Yeah.
So, again, if you're trying to pitch something where your average buyer is 12, that's more complicated.
That's what full screen is.
And that's what they look. But again, if 12-year-old comes to daddy and says, I want to start this thing for $5 a month, and daddy says, and can we cancel cable? Maybe that's interesting. Depends on how much sports daddy likes to watch. But
so let's not bury the MCNs yet, but we'll put them on life support and move to me, the deal of the week that is the most head scratching, the Twitter NFL deal. Like, explain that to me, because maybe I was just napping when the cheat sheet came out.
All right, I am not a fan of this deal, but the logic or the terms of the deal are for something rumored to be $10 million, which is very low, that Twitter can stream a bunch of Thursday night games that are also on CBS or was it ABC? They're split, and the NFL, the networks which will produce it, get to keep almost all of the ad revenue, and the 2 minutes an hour that would go to the local station goes to Twitter. So Twitter has been turned into an internet local affiliate.
Right. And that makes as much sense to me as saying, and you can go on Twitter and call for a car to come pick you up at your house and it'll drive you somewhere.
I think that latter thing is much more sensible. And we can talk about bots and customer service at some other point.
I just do not. How you're going to get people to turn their ever-changing Twitter feed into a frozen? I'm going to watch Twitter like a, like a destination channel.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they looked at Yahoo, which had, as Brad Garlinghouse put it a decade ago, a strategy that was putting a very thin piece of peanut butter across a very large number of slices of bread, and said, we want to be really broad and have no depth and be really bad at everything we do. And because it worked out so well for Yahoo, we're going to try it. That's the only good explanation. So it makes no sense. You're right.
So Variety's coverage of this deal was I thought surprisingly cynical for Todd Spangler, who's a great writer and pretty upbeat about tech. And the headline was, why Twitter's NFL deal won't really move the ball.
I think it's desperation, right? They don't know what they are, or they don't like what they are. Twitter is very much a thing. It's about real-time, short, alerty things. And to the extent, they haven't even gotten that right. And, you can make an argument that there's a thing that people do that's discussing television. But, you know what? I'll tell you. Here's how I think this is a dumb deal, but here's a way you could do it that wouldn't be dumb. Right? So if you say, okay, we're going to be a local affiliate. We're not producing content. We are going to, and I'm not sure we should have to pay for this, but we will provide distribution in an audience, and we will create some sort of Twitter TV experience that is, a rectangle with a stream of comments going down the side. Now that's been, AOL built that in the year 2000, and it made a lot of sense in the year 2000, but except nobody watched TV. But the idea of chat and TV screen on one screen, that's a plausible thing. So if they could get into the business of partnering with networks and building a social environment and not having to pay $10 million, but getting to provide distribution in return for something, there's a little bit of value there.
All right, so which brings us. Again, it's a week of lots of deals in which video moves to the center of the universe. Let's talk about Mashable.
So Mashable 2 years ago said, we want to get into hard news, and they hired Jim Roberts, who is an A+ guy. He ran all sorts of important things at the New York Times. He's a hard news guy. I think he was the national editor. He was, he ran the website for a while. And they built up Mashable as a hard news brand. That never made sense to me, in that Mashable, that wasn't its sort of soul in its first 10 years as a sort of web tech, web culture-y sort of blog. But okay, Jim does a good thing. They just raised another $15 million from Turner. They fire Jim and
30 other staffers.
And they say, never mind text about national news. We want to go back into the soft web culture thing, almost all around video and over the top and so on. Basically saying, oh yes, we want to get paid money by Go90 like these other guys. And so
let's assume that those two deals are, those two things happen for a reason, right? So something we don't have any inside information, but presumably that $15 million round from Turner's broadcasting included some commitment on the part of Mashable, or requirement, look at it any way you like, to be a video maker for them. And they're moving into linear TV, which I don't exactly even understand what that means exactly.
I'm not sure. When I read it, they're moving into over the top, but over the top may not be linear, right? The articles that over the top can be go 90, right?
Well, here, let me,
You could call a podcast is what we're doing linear TV. It goes on for half an hour.
so let me read you the quote from Tube Filter. Mashable will expand into new distribution platforms, Pete Cashmore said, including OTT video services and TV. The Turner-led investment last week called for video production partnerships between Mashable and Turner-owned TV channels TBS and TBT. Quote, the most exciting thing right now, Cashmore said at the time, is the future of TV.
So, look, Turner, or Time Warner, which owns Turner, and I think it was Turner, looked seriously at doing a deal with Vice, which went off and did a deal with, what, A&E?
Yep, A&E.
Right. So, they're playing around with this. If you own cable channels, you may as well, and you have that distribution, and it's going to be live for another decade, you may as well do something with it.
Okay, but as a guy who was in the television business, $15 million is, you could have gone to Mashable and said, how about if we buy 3 series from you and we'll pay $250,000 an episode, or let's go nuts, we'll pay $500,000 an episode. Like, well,
but then you get equity, right? I mean, so $15 million for equity, if you think you're getting a good deal, it also goes on your books differently, right? You don't expense, right? So it doesn't come out of your P&L. It comes out of some hocus pocus investment account. So, right, I mean, Time Warner is managed to earnings per share. So not all dollars are equal.
All right. So the last of the 3 equally interesting, marginally kooky, but pay attention to them deals, and the one that you like the best is the BuzzFeed deal. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's small. So BuzzFeed is innovating, and they're saying, all right, Facebook video is hot. What do we put on it? And so they created another little brand. They had a food brand whose name I forgot, and now they have a do-it-yourself brand. And
Nifty. It's called Nifty.
Nifty. And what it is, at least in the sample videos, are 2-minute clips, music, no narration, that shows you how to do a little project. It's
nifty.
It's a little teeny snack. It competes
come on, that's
with reading one article in a women's magazine in the supermarket checkout line. And the key thing here is they're not spending very much money on it. It has integrity, but the one that was kicking around was how to make a little cat shelter out of straws or something, and it's fine, but they're not betting the farm. They're experimenting. I mean, that's what Jonah believes in. You do lots of little shit. You measure it. You try again. You take advantage of what's hot at the moment, of which Facebook video is. It fits in the medium. You're not pretending that Facebook video is good for half an hour talk show.
And by the way, it's super advertiser friendly, right? Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And Facebook, it's not on our list, but Facebook has announced in the last week or so that they are allowing people who make content to put sponsored content, native advertising through their platform. Right? So the idea is now that the Nifty channel will have the little stuff that BuzzFeed makes, plus other stuff from advertisers on Benjamin Moore paints on, painting your cat house. And
no. I saw that one. It's painting your cat, actually.
Okay. That's
awesome.
That, as we know, anything with cats is a home run on social media, especially as handled by BuzzFeed. But
so as we wrap up this extraordinarily action-packed half hour, the next thing that's on the horizon, where everyone I know is getting on an airplane except me because I'm not going, is NAB, which to me was a conference,
the National Association of Broadcasters,
right,
the TV station convention,
right, which I thought was going to be a conference that was going to float off to sea years ago, but it actually has had a resurgence. Has a lot of web video people going, a lot of product people going, a lot of technology people going, and you're going to see some big announcements out of it.
Okay, and do you want to give us a hint as to announcements that are going to matter?
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
All
And
right,
our whole
so we are
audience.
not going to kill our audience, but we are just going to tease you and
Indeed.
say all the more reason to tune in next week, same time, same place, same podcatcher, to find out, what the latest crazy ideas are in the internet video world, including ones out of Las Vegas.
Hack on. See you in a week.
Keep on hacking.